Before you take a job like this, anything to do with public service, you have to decide within yourself, can you handle the job? A lot of people run for these offices, but they factor in running for the office and going through the election, but they never factor in what you're gonna do if you get the job. So the biggest misconception is that everything is just rehearsed. It's just a script that you're working by. And that couldn't be far from the truth, man. I mean, we deal with so many issues on day-to-day issues, from the lowest of residents, homeless people, to the richest of people. It's no shield blocking you from anybody, because the rich have problems with us just like the poor have problems with us, because we got to enforce the same laws across the board. McDonald's, we're not trying to run McDonald's out of business, and we know McDonald's food killing people. But we're not trying to run McDonald's out. We don't deal with McDonald's because it's the lesser of
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Haitian Kings Podcast. Today, we have a councilman with us, and he's very popular. He's doing a lot of stuff in the community, and we wanted to bring him so he can explain to the people so that y'all can know what's really going on. There's so many things he told me, I didn't even know there was going on. So without further ado,
Councilman
Craig Marks.
Marks, right?
Yes.
Okay. All
How
right.
you doing, Craig?
I'm doing fine. Thank y'all for having me.
I mean, trust me, the pleasure is all ours, because the beauty of this show and what we do is basically we bring people like you, people from all kind of background, and they get to sit down with us and have a conversation. And even though to that conversation we had when we met before,
Right.
like you saying, we've learned so much that we didn't even know, because I had complaints about Enterprise before since I moved here. Well, I didn't know who to address those complaints to. I used to just be, I guess, within my ignorance saying, man, they'll never fix it. They'll fix the white neighborhood and leave all the black one all messed up. But after talking to you, I realized it goes deeper than that, and there's like a way things go or whatever. But let's get it from the very beginning.
Okay.
Talk to us about your background, your upbringing, because you were born and raised in Lake Charles, I believe.
Yeah, born and raised in Lake Charles. Lived here all my life. Graduated high school, went to college here. And that's basically it. I'm born and raised.
All right, and let's start within your journey as being a councilman. And you were saying that you were invested within the community way before you got to be a council person.
Yes.
And then you also telling us like you had when you were young, you had like something that happened to you that pretty much even push you even further into trying to make a change within the community. Can you talk to us about that in details?
Well, like I told y'all in the discussion, sometimes you meet people and they see where you're at now. They don't know where you come from. But I've been an advocate in the community all the way back before my college days. Even in high school, I wanted to be on the student council and all that type of stuff like that, to be an advocate, to speak for the people. And as I was growing up, as I told you, I ran into a little sidetrack, early on. I'll just give you the background. My father, the first time I met my father was in the 8th grade. That's the first time I ever met him. And it was due to some circumstances that he had gotten involved into. As you know, I am a convicted felon. I have been to prison, served 10 years, a 10-year sentence. That happened because I was involved I had a relative that was involved in the drug game, and back then, when it was time, when the crack epidemic came out, people, you were convicted on association. So I got convicted of conspiracy, which means you knew somebody was doing something. And in my mind, so did everybody in the community. So you would basically have to arrest the whole community in order to justify it. But way back when I was a child, my father at the same age had gotten into the same type of trouble. And when he got into the trouble, he decided to tell on people, so he sent a lot of people to jail based upon his testimony. And as kids, we were raised a certain way. Back when I was growing up, the culture was you never tell. You keep your mouth shut. You even got in trouble for telling your mama the truth, like I was telling you.
Yeah.
Your mama come in the room and ask you, well, who broke the lamp? And you say, well, so-and-so broke the lamp. and you'll catch a whipping for telling your mama who broke the lamp. And that's the way we were raised, and my father, because of the situation that he got himself in, he wasn't able to stay in the city, because people were trying to do him things, so he got away. That's hence the reason why I didn't see him until 8th grade was the first time that I saw him. And when he came to town, we had a little time together, but for the most part, he spent a lot of time with other kids, not me, and it kind of made me bitter. And I would pray to God and say, God, I don't want to be the same type of man that he is, and that was my goal. That was my focus. And as it would have it, God put me in the same situation at the same time, at the same age that he was in, and based upon the prayers, I just believe that was God saying, hey, you said you didn't want to be that type of man. So now you're in the same situation that your father was in. Now what you going to do? And going through that made me realize that as kids, we judge our parents based upon what we think. We don't know what they were in with the situation and the mindset that they were in at the time that they did it. So now I'm in the same situation, and at that time when they arrested me and my cousin, they arrested me thinking that I would tell. I was the only person had a job that was involved in it. It was a conspiracy with 40 people. Some of them was dead at the time that they indicted them. And when I got there, my mindset was just not to say anything. I had kids, I was married, had a good job, the whole 9 yards. So long story short, my decision was to just ride it out, because I really didn't know enough to be thinking about going to give somebody else a life sentence, and that's what I stood on. So I ended up getting a 10-year sentence, first time ever being in trouble, first time ever being arrested. And that's what I got.
But, you kind of also said you are always guided towards helping people, being part of the
Right.
community or whatever. Where do you think that love came, that attraction came from? Did it start after you got convicted, or was it way before that?
No, it was way before. I mean, as a kid, I just believed in loyalty. I believed in friendship. Even to this day, that's my biggest proponent. If a man ain't got a word, he ain't got nothing. And that's what I live by. And all coming up through school, I was always an advocate. I was always the one in the crew that's going to speak out for the people that's involved. And that's been in since way long before ever going to prison. And I guess now I have even stronger drive, because it bothers me sometimes when people find out the situation that I've been through. They say, oh, you're different now, when they didn't know me from the beginning. I've always been this way. I would have been this way had I went to prison or not. But prison and going through the wrongs and the injustices just drove me more to want to be an advocate for those who can't speak for themselves.
So let's just say, when you first started, after you got out of prison, and and then you were more driven to even be more of a voice for the community.
Right.
And coming out of prison, as you're saying, people were looking at you different now, because once you're convicted, that means you did it.
Yes.
And then if you say I didn't do it, they're gonna say, well, that's what everybody says. So whenever you got out, how was the journey? Because you starting now you're getting involved even deeper than you were before. So how was that journey when people were still kind of looking at you, I guess, in a sense, still as somewhat of a criminal? What were the difficulties you faced?
Well, it's more of a mind thing than anything, because I've learned that people are really not looking at you like you think they are. At the time that I got out of prison, I started getting back active with advocates. I'll give you an example. There was a time I had been out of prison less than a year, and there were 3 guys that got killed at a local park. And through my church, I organized we had this big parade for Stop the Violence, and we got community leaders, we got people in the community, we all came out, and we had this big thing. But that same day, there was an article in the newspaper, because the interviewer came out, he called me, he said, I want to do an interview with you based upon what you're doing in the community. To Stop the Violence March. So I said, okay, cool. Come to my house and, interview me. That's where we'll do it at. So in the midst of the interview, it went from, how did you get these people together? What are y'all doing? To, I know you. I know you from somewhere. Wasn't you involved in the Aces split case? So now that interview flipped. And to me, that was the motivation for him come and do the interview anyway. So that next day when we did the thing, there was this big write-up in the newspaper about the ACES split member, convicted felon, is giving back to the community, et cetera, et cetera. And then the chief of police at the time made a statement in the newspaper saying that anytime Craig want to work with the police, we'll be glad to have him work with us. You know, and to me that set bad with me because you were trying to put a spin on what I was doing. You know, but those are the type of obstacles that you're gonna always endure when you're coming out of something, you know. But I kept on going, kept on moving, and then I eventually got to the point to where I was able to run for city council. And that's ironic in it of itself because when I got out of prison, the law said that you couldn't run. Once you was a convicted felon, you couldn't run for state office. And it just so happened at that time that there was a state representative in New Orleans that had ran and got malfeasance in office. So he had to lose his office. But he ended up filing an appeal with the Supreme Court. And just by the grace of God, it was at the same time that I decided to run for city council. And the Louisiana statute passed. And now they said that a convicted felon could run for office in the state of Louisiana. So that opened the door for me to go into politics, which to me was a sign from God because that changed at the time that I was running. You know, so it was just things like that that kept coming up in my life to say, hey, you're on the right path. You just got to endure what you're going to face with people calling you a convicted felon and all that kind of stuff.
So I know, like talking to you from what happened, so it was an injustice and you in the city council now. So what is the goal like for you to get to city council? What you're trying to achieve?
I'm trying to be an advocate. I love my city. You know, regardless, right, wrong, or indifferent, I love Lake Charles because that's where I was raised. And I've always wanted to be an advocate for the people. I wanted to be a voice of change. And that's my goal being city councilman in Lake Charles, you know, is to be able to, like you said, when you had the problem and you were talking about Enterprise Boulevard, you know, it makes a difference if you know how the system works, you know how the progress works, or you know who you need to talk to get things done in the city. That's what I want to be. I want to be that person that people can come to and say, hey, man, I got problems with property standards. I got problems with the streets. I got problems with whatever is going on in the city. You can come to me and I can do my best to try and get it done. And there's nothing more gratifying than being able to solve a problem for somebody who didn't think that the problem could be solved.
But for the people out there that don't really know, because before I met you, I didn't even fully know what was the job of a councilman. Mm-hmm. Can you go ahead and give us like in detail what is your job exactly as a councilman for the city?
The job of the city council is basically we're the governing body. You know, we make the laws, we make the ordinances, we carry out all the measures that are put forth in the previous laws to make sure that everything is done fairly and justly. You know, we work along with the mayor and his administration. We work along with the police department to make the city as the governing body. You know, that's basically what our 7-member board does. We make the laws. We control the budget. We fix the streets. We come together and we come up with a plan that is going to drive the city forward.
So what are the most pressing challenges currently facing Lake Charles, and how is the council addressing them?
Well, one of the biggest problems that we've had in the past years has been drainage, you know, and the council is working along with the mayor. We got a budget, we got some grants, we got some different things going. And on the surface, you can't see it just looking at it. But from the time that the hurricane hit till now, the city is drastically different. You know, our drainage is a lot better. Our streets are getting better. Like you asked about Enterprise Boulevard. Most people who travel that street every day did not know that street has been working on. You know, we've got a project that started on Broad Street and is headed south all the way up to Prairie Lake Road. We got just past the police station now, so we're right about LCB, the old LCB school. You'll see the roads are being repaved, straightened out, and it's going to be smooth sailing from that point on. You know, drainage was one of the issues. Businesses, having new businesses come to certain areas of the city. That's always been a hard part because in the private sector, you can't tell them where to put their business. They're going to put their business where they think they can make the money. And right now, we're trying to balance the city out to make it livable on both sides. You know, it was a time in the city where you could drive from one end to the other and it looked like two different cities. And gradually, we're evening it out. Now, it's probably never going to be even because some parts of the city were neglected a little bit longer than others, and it takes a little bit more time to catch up. But the city is becoming balanced.
So with the thing, with what happened with the Capital One building, so is there like anything that's gonna end up being in that same area right there or no?
Yeah, as it stands right now, we're gonna move the amphitheater from where it sits now and make it bigger and more pleasing to attract bigger concerts and bigger events. We're gonna move that to the Capital One site. The city is in the process of purchasing that property, and so we're gonna put the amphitheater there, along with, I don't know if y'all heard the announcement, we having a hotel and convention center being built on the north side of the Civic Center. So that area downtown is gonna boom once these projects get off the ground.
So but the hotel it was after it was so why putting a hotel right there? I'm just trying to understand what you're gonna have a hotel in the convention center to do. I'm just I'm just trying to understand why when I saw it, like why they put a hotel right there. What's the attractions gonna be like?
Well, it's been through studies. It's been studied and found out that Lake Charles misses a lot of conventions that come to the city, that could potentially come to the city, and not a lot of conventions want to go to the casinos because of the drinking and because of the gambling.
Okay.
So that prevents a lot of organizations from giving their events there. Okay. So now with the building of this new hotel, it opens up a whole new avenue for Lake Charles. There was a study done, and if I'm saying the numbers correctly, it was estimated that we miss in excess of 100 conventions a year that could potentially come to this area. You know, we have all the other stuff that to attract them here. We just don't have the places where they can stay and host conventions like that. And to build that hotel really helps us out because we would have to go put that same amount of money into the Civic Center, which, you know, Civic Center was built close to 50 years ago.
Okay.
So to revamp that and bring it up to code and bring it up to all the standards that's needed now, you're almost building a whole nother building.
Okay.
And so now the mayor has established a public-private partnership where there's another private entity coming in to build the hotel. And they're going to build the convention center, but it's going to be owned by the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also another question that I got, because I've been living in Detroit for the past 14 years, and if there's one thing I hear a lot of people complain about is the I-10 bridge. And if I'm not mistaken, I-10 is like one of the longest interstate that connects from California all the way to Florida.
Right.
And then the I-10 bridge is basically really old. And then that's one big complaint people always had, like when they're gonna build another bridge, when they're gonna replace this. Or is that like an issue that falls under your jurisdiction, or is it just something completely different?
We're advocates for it. The city council and the city of Lake Charles, as well as the surrounding areas, we're advocates for the bridge. But that falls basically under our state legislature. And our Southwest delegation, which is the leaders from this area, have pushed and made strides to finally get the money funded for that bridge. So in the next coming years, you're going to see groundbreaking going on with that bridge to help alleviate all the problems we have now with the safety issues.
Because I heard all type of stuff. I heard they say they're gonna build a whole new bridge. I heard people say they're gonna like pretty much take down that bridge and build another one.
No, the plans are right now is to build another bridge on the side of it, on the north side of it. So the new bridge will come along the side while this bridge is still functioning. But you know, it's gonna be a lot of years project. You estimate between 6 and 7 years building that bridge. So that's a long time to be without. And the end, like you said about the I-10, I-10 is a very important corridor throughout the United States. You know, so we're not just going to shut it down. But that's a little bit above our purview. That falls on the legislature.
Good. The thing is, okay, if we were looking at your background, your story, the thing that you've been through, as a councilman, what are you currently doing to pretty much, I guess you may say, stop the youth or repeating that same mistake? Because that's one thing we deal with in Lake Charles, Louisiana, the youth, I guess, as you may say, being up to no good, doing all kind of stuff that's going to lead them in jail, that's going to like mess up their whole life. It's just something that's, I guess you may say, somewhat part of your job to help guide the youth towards like a better path, teach them to go to school, stay away from drugs, from the streets, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right. And I want to be clear. It's more so all of our jobs. You know, being a city councilman doesn't really directly deal with the youth, you know, per se, like I would do as mentors. You know, through my fraternity and through other organizations, I help to mentor youth, you know, and tell them about my story, tell them about my plight, tell them about things that, you know, this generation is different. You know, it's different. You can't just tell them anything and they go along with it. You got to show them, you know, what you're talking about. And through other organizations that I'm involved with, we go out, my church, we go out and we mentor youth. We tell them about the pitfalls that they could face. We tell them about the things that they could face in the world. You know, especially being a black man, a young black man. You know, the reality of the world today is that you have to be careful about everywhere you are. You know, you got to be careful about how you talk, how you approach people. You got to be careful of just your demeanor sends a message to certain people and they may judge you a certain way. You know, so my job as a person, not just as a city councilman, is to try to be the example where youth today can see what it's like. Even if you fall, you can still get back up and accomplish some things, you know. My thing is, I don't believe in quitting, you know, but I do believe that there's a process. And if we don't have patience and faith, then we can't make anything happen, you know.
And also another question I kind of had for you. As if I understand your job right, as a councilman, you basically like an advocate for the people,
Right.
Like in a sense, so which means I'm sure you get to deal with a lot of complaints,
Mm-hmm.
some that are petty and some that are serious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does the ones that's like petty and repetitive, do they tend to bother you? How do you keep your patience? And let's just say somebody's calling you at 3 o'clock in the morning to tell you some, I guess, how you may call it, some caring stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, as with anything, before you take a job like this, you know, anything to do with public service, you have to decide within yourself, can you handle the job? You know, a lot of people run for these offices, but they factor in running for the office and going through the election, but they never factor in what you're going to do if you get the job. You know, so your mind has to be made up before you even get this job on what you're going to deal with. So when you talk about the petty grievances that people call you with, yes, a lot of it is. A lot of it is just people wanting what they want. They want things to go their way. And it just doesn't work that way. But at the same time, you got to have a temperament that every complaint is important. You know, because if you're a homeowner and you got a nice house and a nice yard, to you, your grass may be a big deal. Cutting grass and blowing it in the street. To me, that might not be nothing. But to you and the way you keep your home, that may be a big deal. So I can't slight your complaint because I don't feel the same way that you are. Every person that calls me, I try to put myself in their shoe. You know, and sometimes the bad part of it is the more you help people, the more they give you trouble. You know, it's almost like they feel they got the hotline to you now. Once you help them, they call it back. Because now you showed them that you could solve a problem. So now here they come calling again. And not every problem can you fix. And I don't try to give anybody the impression that I can fix all your problems. I can't. It's a process that I have to go through. It's a system that we got in place. There's rules to it. And I follow those rules to the best of my ability to try to help everybody with what they want. You know, and if I can't get it done, at least I've given you the idea that there is somebody out there working for you.
That's interesting.
So I know, as a councilman, you work with different leaders.
Yes.
So how you, leaders and organizations, so how you implement effective policies for Lake Charles, how do you work with other leaders to do that?
Well, it takes the whole city. It takes all of our leaders to come together to make a functioning, effective city. You know, in Lake Charles, the mayor's administration, along with the city council, we work with anybody that is trying to do good for the city of Lake Charles. You know, sometimes it involves helping them get funding. Sometimes it helps them just helping them get some permits or things like that. You know, like right now, there's a big building boom going on. You know, you see a lot of apartments being built, a lot of homes being built. These things take communication. You know, these things are not just happening overnight. It takes a concerted effort by the administration, by the city council, and by private entities to come together and put these things together. And a lot of times, the city council has to be the conduit to translate what the law says, what you can and cannot do. You know, we have a planning and zoning board that all of these different builders have to go through to find out, hey, I want to build this. Can I do this in the city of Lake Charles? And we become the go-between. We become the deciding factor, so to speak. You know, when things can't get worked out, then they come before the city council and we interpret the law as to how it needs to be implemented in the city of Lake Charles.
Okay, and working with different councilmen, and I'm like, let's just say if you guys are working on something to where you're debating it, and then to where, let's just say, to where the opinions might differ, how do you guys resolve those? Does it go by a vote, or how do you guys settle those differences among
Ultimately, it
yourselves?
goes down to a vote. But you hope that you can talk to the other councilmen and get them to see, because not every district has the same needs. You would think that everybody in Lake Charles have the same needs. Well, in one part of town, that might not be a great need. Streets are, let's just say sidewalks, as an example. That might not be a great need in one part of the city because they got good sidewalks. So they may not be as concerned about sidewalks as this other part of town. So you have to come together and communicate and talk to one another and let one another know, hey, this is what's going on in my district. This is my need. I need you to come on board with me so that we can get some funding or allocate some funding to this particular part of the area or the city so that we can get something done. And not all the time you come to an agreement. Sometimes there's debates because we have different views. You've got 7 different views on the council. But the key to a good council is being able to get the other councilmen to understand your need and your plight for your district, because it's going to come back full circle. One time you may need me to vote for you, and you have to consider all those factors when you're a council. It's not just my way or no way, or you'll never get anything done.
So let's talk about a little bit about funding. So is the funding is like every city council got their own funding, or is just got one big funding for Lake Charles, and then how that funding thing goes?
Well, the city has a budget that they start with every year.
Okay.
And it just depends on the taxes and all the things that have been collected. And through that, we'll put requests in for things that we need in our district. And that's why it's so important that a councilman is in touch with what's going on in his district, the needs of his district. And then we'll go back and we'll sit down with the administration and say, hey, this is what I feel needs to be done in my district. And the mayor and his administration, is their job to sit down and say, okay, we have this much funding to going into the year. And we look at all of these projects and we decide, okay, what is the greatest need? Where do we need to allocate the greatest need? And they'll prioritize it, and they'll come back to us and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. And they might come to each district and say, look, this is what we have the funding for in your district. What is your greatest need? Where do you want this funding to be allocated? And I say, well, based upon what's going on in my district, I might need it in drainage, or I might need it on sidewalks, or I might need it in whatever area it may be. But then the overall picture that we have to keep in fact is there are some things that are for the greater good of the city, like drainage. Drainage is the number one problem that we've had over the past few years with the rainfalls that we had, with the hurricanes that we had. So drainage will take precedent citywide. So that's what we'll start working down. We'll start fixing up all the drainage. And then as funding trickles down, then we'll start doing individual districts. But the funding comes from the tax and the revenues that we get from the places like the Civic Center that generate revenue for the city. And then that goes into one pot. And then we allocate that pot as needed by working with the mayor and his administration.
Give me like a rundown. How was it for you guys after the hurricane? Because I'm sure the list of complaints went from like 100 to like 1 million right after the hurricane, because everybody was complaining about, hey, his tree fell down, my house is blocked in, or I'm sure those complaints were like multiplied.
Yeah.
Like, how was that for you guys coming back in and debate and sit down and address all these concerns?
Well, I can't say what it was like for my colleagues. I can say for me, it was different because I stayed during the hurricane. I stayed at my church while the whole thing was going on. So I was one of the first people in the city the next day. And it was, to look at the city now from the way it was back then, you wouldn't believe it's possible in this short period of time. But through the resilience of the people, through the administration at the time, through the city council and all their works, in our term, we're coming up on the end of our term. We have elections in March, and we were the body that served during the hurricanes. And to see where it is now, man, it's awesome. But the complaints, they were what you would expect. You come back and people's houses that once stood are no longer there. It took me, normally to walk from my church to my house might take me 15 minutes. It took me almost 3 hours to walk because the trees were down, the telephone poles were down, and different things like that. And as I took that walk, I'm looking at people's houses that I would pass every day that's just gone, So it was a daunting task because as a city councilman, me personally, I was thinking, man, how are we gonna do this? This gonna be, it made me even think about, I don't want to do this no more, And then after you see the progress, after you see the people start to work and start to come back and do all the things that they did, it makes it, I want to be a city councilman even that much more now because of the people in Lake Charles.
So what's the biggest misconception about your job? To it's kind of like some people come into it and make requests that's like way above your pay grade kind of stuff. Like, what's the biggest misconception you've dealt?
The biggest misconception is the fact that the decisions are already made. People have the impression that when we come out and we discuss something that is just a discussion, we just putting on the show. But no, those things are hashed out. I might come across a problem that just came up today, but it may be on the agenda. Some variation of it may be on the agenda. So in that moment, I got to find a way to negotiate and talk to my other colleagues to get this passed or denied, whatever the situation is better. So the biggest misconception is that everything is just rehearsed. It's just a script that you're working by. And that couldn't be far from the truth, man. I mean, we deal with so many issues and on day-to-day issues from the lowest of residents, homeless people, to the richest of people. It's no shield blocking you from anybody because the rich have problems with us just like the poor have problems with us because we got to enforce the same laws across the board.
Okay, when I'm sure whenever you first got elected as a councilman, of course you were ready to do the job. Like, can you tell me like what was like your first blowback, like your first like man, I didn't think it was that way moment?
Well, I guess having to tell somebody no. When they come there and they didn't put all their plans together, and to me, it seems like a great idea if I'm just talking to you about it. But then when I start reading the ordinances and I say, hey, well, you can't do that in that area, and you can't put this up, and you got to tell somebody that done put their money and their hard work into a project that they have plans on doing. They've been planning this for 2 years to do this project. And I got to tell them, I got to vote against it because the law say you can't do it. And it may be something as simple as your building is not far back. It's not back far enough from the street because this particular area says you have to have so much setback, and you got to tell those people no, and it's people that I guess the hardest part is telling people no that you see every day, that you deal with every day, that you went to school with, and you telling them no, we can't do it. But people come in there and they expect you to work miracles. And it's just not that simple.
So what role does the public feedback play in the decision the council make?
I'm glad you asked that, man. This is what I try to get people to understand. The people drive the government. In other words, if you elect me to do a job and you don't support me, my voice is weak. But if you elect me and you come and support me on what your issues are. If you got an issue in the community and you want me to fight that issue and you never show up to those meetings, it makes my voice weak. I don't have anything backing me to make the administration or to make other people believe that this is really a problem. But when the people get behind you, when people show up to meetings and support their cause, it makes a whole different to the rest of the council members because now we feel like this is important to this community. This community is going to stand by it. But when the voice is silent, our voices get weak as leaders.
But the thing is, as you're saying, once the people get behind you, it makes your voice even more stronger to address the matter. But let's just say, have you ever guys had like an issue, like something that the whole city, let's just say a lot of people wanted to be done, but for some reason it couldn't get done?
Yes. We had an issue with the African American Chamber of Commerce. Long story short, they had been trying to get some funding to do some projects, and it sounded like a good project on the surface, but when me and other council members start digging deep into these things, we say, okay, if we start giving you money, what's going to stop that other organization from coming ask for the same money. So we got to be able to justify why we want to give you that money and tell them no. So when we start digging into it, we start asking for financials, and all these different things to support what you're asking for. We came to the conclusion that it's not worth it. It's not a good investment for the city. And that became a big pushback, because that the perception that was given out to the public is just, see, you can go out there and say anything you want on KPLC or anywhere else. Me as a councilman, I can't say that. I can't go out there and lie, because you can track me. You can go and find out that I'm telling a lie, whereas somebody else can get in front of the news camera and paint a picture like, hey, they just against us. They just don't want to give us this. They racist, or all that other kind of stuff. But we dealing with facts. And as being a good steward of the public's money, I have to make those hard calls. Along with my colleagues, we have to make those hard decisions that it sounds good, but it's not good right now. But if you do these things that we're asking you to do, we can come back and get it done.
But being a councilman, it's kind of like, it's something like you said, you got to really love doing it, because first of all, there's not that much money in it.
Right.
And also, it's not like there's like a rule book or how to do it.
Exactly right.
So therefore, whenever you first started, did you have some sort of mentor, or you had to just figure it out on your own?
I had a mentor by the name of Miss Mary Morris. She's deceased right now, but she was a councilman for District 8 for about 8 years. You know, and me and this woman used to talk every day. Before I even knew that I wanted to run for office, she would fuss at me and say, Craig, you got to read. You got to read. You got to read these laws and these ordinances, or you can't apply it. You know, and then when I started to be interested in it and wanting to run, you know, she would take me under her wing. But here's the problem. Most times when it comes to leadership positions like city council, when one person goes out and another person goes in, you learn it on the fly. Unless you got some other people that's willing to take the time and sit you down and take you case by case and say, hey, man, this is what we do in this situation, or this is what we do in this situation. This is what I made up in my mind if I were to ever have a situation like, if I win this time and there's some new council members coming on, I'm going to make it my business to train them in the things that I didn't get a chance to learn from anybody, you know, because that makes you a better councilman. But, you know, it's just like the law. If I give you a law book and say, go read this, tell me how to apply this in the courtroom, that's going to be a defendant out there that's in trouble. You know, because you're just reading out a book. You don't know how to articulate this. You don't know what these words mean. You don't know what these laws mean. So you need somebody there to mentor you, you know. And so one of my goals is to try and get a standard operating procedure for city councilmen that come in. You know, I mean, we can't tell you every situation, but there's some basics that you need to know as a city councilman in order to function properly, in order to be effective for your district, you know, because truth be told, you on display. You know, you hear people talk about putting term limits on, you know, different offices. Well, I'm a firm believer that there are built-in term limits for city councilmen, and it's your time in office. Right now, I'm an incumbent. I had 4 years on display. I had 4 years of practice. You know, so in my district, if my constituents didn't think I did a good job, they're going to know from them 4 years. So when it's time for me to run again, they're going to say, hey, we're not voting for you. That's my term limit. You know, so those things are important in all types of leadership, whether you're running for mayor, whether you're running for city council, whether you're running for police jury, all of these things, there's no ironclad way of being that. You know, the type of person you are is going to determine what type of leader you're going to be.
And I believe you said like in March, you guys got like another term coming up. So that was your first term, right?
This was my first term.
Okay, your first term. Like, what could you possibly say that maybe like during your second term, let's just say for the sake of argument, like you win your second term, you feel like you could be doing better?
Well, I think that the whole job can be done better. You know, everything that I've learned and done in my first 4 years, I can perfect it now because I got a little bit more knowledge now going into it. As opposed when I got in it the first time, I'm learning on the fly. You know, it may be a situation where you come before the council and you expected me to help you, and I don't have a clue on how to help you right now because I'm just getting on the council. But in these past 4 years, we've had every kind of situation that you could possibly want to come up in front of that council. So I'm learning now. So this next 4 years, you come back with that same issue, I'm more adept to helping you now because I know more. So this is what I have to offer in a new term. Whereas another person that may be running for his first term, he can't say that.
But this is to me like, okay, I like what you said. Let's say, for instance, like it was just somebody that decided to go for city council. Then the first 4 years, so therefore let's say it's the first 2 years, he take time to learn. But for some people, they felt like at that time, he wasn't doing his job. But he was, like you said, there was not somebody in place to help you navigate through all those difficulties. But do you feel like can somebody come and replace them just because they don't even know the job themselves? And then you got the same problem again.
Right.
But don't you feel like it's better if you just like, okay, get behind the people we voted the first time, but knowing now they know what they're doing, the second terms, they got a result faster than what we expected the first 4 years.
I agree with you to a certain extent, because look at it this way. You will be able to tell what kind of leader you're dealing with at a certain point. Like for my first 4 years, I believe that in year 2, the beginning of year 2, my constituents could tell what type of leader I am. They can tell whether you call me and I just brush you off, or you call me and I call you back with the result. Whether I can do it or not, I didn't call you back with some information. So if you are that type of leader, people will see that in you. And people will be more adept and say, okay, I see he growing. I see he really care about the people. I see when I call him, he called me back. It's not just pushed off. So they may take a chance on you for your second term. But there are some people that may hold this office that may say they ain't did nothing. You got a person in year 4 say, I've been trying to call you since year 1 and I haven't been able to reach you yet. Why are they going to put you back in office? Why are they going to take another chance on you? If I'm going to take that chance on you, you done already showed me what you're going to do. I might as well get this next guy and let him get a chance. Maybe he going to be better. So it's up to the people to be attentive to what type of leader you have.
Okay, so as the president of the city council, let's say you got 7 of your right.
Right.
So if you feel like somebody is not doing the job, can you say something?
Well, it's a way you can say something, because I'm a big advocate of this. We get elected in individual districts, but you're a city councilman for the whole city. Your business in District D is my business in District F. Your business in District C is my business in District F. Now it's up to me to be able to articulate that to you in a way that's not offensive, in a way that you don't feel like I'm telling you I know more than you, because we do it all the time. We get complaints from other districts. Like people will call me from North Lake Charles or South Lake Charles, and they'll say, hey, Craig, I got this issue. I can't just push that person off and say, hey, your councilman is District D councilman or District E councilman, and you need to call them. No, I get elected. When you hear the elections, they say, I am Craig Marks. I'm the president of the city council. They don't say I'm president of District F. I'm the president of the city council, which represents the whole city. So it's all of our business what's going on in everybody's district. But if you're a person that can sit on the council and see wrong being done in a certain part of the city and not say anything about it, then you're at fault.
But if that person, let's say you said the most, beautiful way you can say it, nicest, and that person's still not doing anything, what can you do to change? You can't do anything?
Well, you can try to influence the vote. You can try and get the other council members to say, hey, look, this going on in District F, man, and it's just horrible. We need to do something about it. Now, we can all get together and outvote that person, because the majority rules.
Okay.
But at the same time, that situation is going to shine a light on that particular council person. And now it's up to the citizens to come back when it's election time and say, hey, we don't want you no more. You're not good for our community. And that's why I was telling you earlier, it's so important for the community to get involved, to come and voice your opinions. A lot of people will call on the phone, but they won't come in person. But if you go back and you check the records of the city council, whenever there's hot topics, when the community shows up, it makes a difference.
Okay. And you've pretty much come into the end of your first term, your first 4 years. And then you were saying that and in your next term, if they got like a new city councilman, you're going to try to guide them and teach them and show them things that you wish that you knew. let's just say in your next term, you got somebody that's like a new at the job. What kind of advice would you give? What kind of warning would you give that person to where he'll know exactly what he's walking into?
Well, first thing I would tell them is to read. That's the first thing you got to do. Because a lot of these decisions that we are making, we never experienced before. I give you something simple that I had problems with that I'm sure other council members or new council members are going to have problems with. A trash can. You put your trash can out for the trash man to come and pick it up on a daily basis. And you got some people in neighborhoods that will leave that trash can there for 4 or 5 days, not knowing that there's a law that says you have to take your trash can from the curb before the end of the day.
See, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that, man. I'm gonna start complaining about some of my neighbors, man.
And these are the things that
I didn't know.
that we come into the council not knowing because you don't deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
The average citizen don't deal with that. They complain. They say, "Oh, that guy leave his trash can out all day." But then when you go and read section so and so and so and so, the ordinance says that your trash can is supposed to be pulled from the curb.
Man, I think if somebody called me, I'll probably think you was a Karen. I didn't even know there was a law.
Yeah, I didn't know the law against it.
That's
I
a city ordinance.
I didn't know.
Just like cutting grass. You see a lot of people cut grass and blow it in the street and go on about their business and don't worry about nothing. That's a city ordinance saying that's illegal. That's illegal to cut your grass and blow it in the street.
But who are there to enforce those laws? Like, I'm guessing, do they wait till somebody complains or something?
That's the only thing that we need to work on, I believe, in my personal opinion, as a city. Employees. We are short-staffed. So a lot of things that we carry out, or we should carry out, the staff is lacking for that. We don't have enough people. But we have an area called property standards. There's a department for every violation that a person could commit in the city. There's a department for it. And that's what we as council people have to do. When you call me and say, "Hey, man, the water on my street, when it drains, it don't go down the drain." And then I get somebody to come out and go check it and find out they got big stacks of grass that then got in the drain and clogging up the water. Well, now from that point on, I'm going to be watching that house. I'm going to be watching that street. In the summertime, when everybody out there cutting their grass, I got a habit of driving through the neighborhood. I drive through the neighborhood and I take pictures. I might go in front of your house and I take pictures after you cut your grass. And I'm going to come back maybe a day and a half, 2 days later to that same address. And if that grass is still there, I'm reporting you.
Man, I got a lot of stuff. That's what I love about this show, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't know. Because I take my trash back. It's not because I feel like it's the right thing to do, but I didn't think there was a law that said you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I do too, but the same day now.
Yeah,
sometimes mine stay like 2 days, 3 days. When I finally got time, I pull it back in.
You think about this. Y'all live in nice homes, right?
Yeah.
You want that neighborhood to stay that way. For property values, for people just coming down your street, you want them to say, "Hey, that's a nice street." But you got your neighbor, don't cut his grass.
Okay.
He got junk cars in his yard. He parking in the front yard. Just like people don't understand that. There is an ordinance that says you have to have, your car can be parked only in a certain place in your yard. It has to be parked on a slab. It has to have the right foundation. You can't just drive in your front yard and park. There's ordinances for that. And in some of these places, there are homeowners associations that prevent you from doing that.
Yeah,
You're breaking the law in that way.
my neighborhood does.
But it's things that we do on an everyday basis that we don't understand, that there's laws for this. You can't just go put a driveway in your front yard. You need to have a permit to put a driveway in your front yard, even though it's your house.
That's like because after the hurricane, and I didn't know that because I'm a foreigner, so I'm from Haiti, come here, so I wanted to add a slab in the back. Yeah. So after my house destroyed, so I'm rebuilding, so I add a slab.
Yeah.
And then when one guy came in one time, he said, "Hey man, you didn't get a permit." I said, "I didn't know. I thought that this is my house. I can just add a slab." But
and see, Vadim, the thing about that is, there are people around the city that are building things and adding things onto their house just because they figure it's their house, they can do it. But there's city ordinances that says if you didn't have a permit for that, we can make you tear it down.
You know what's funny, what's interesting? My brother lives in a Moss Bluff, and his house is kind of like on the edge of the street. So it's kind of like there's his house, and then that's when you make the turn. and there's a stop sign, and then he got like his little mailbox right there by the stop sign, and then they got like this street that been there since he bought the house. But one time he received a complaint like saying that that tree is blocking the stop sign to where like people that's coming can't quite see the stop sign until they get past his house. And he saw it, he ignored it. He was like, "Oh no, the thing been there.
They're gonna find
They
you."
find him $1,000.
And that's what people don't understand. All of those things, if you could just follow the life of a city councilman and the things they got to do, you'll see how certain things like that stop sign being blocked by them bushes, to the average person, man, that ain't nothing. Till somebody turn that corner and don't stop and hit somebody or hit a car because they didn't see the stop sign because it's blocked by the bushes. Now who's gonna pay for that? Now who's responsible for that? You know, and those are the type of things that we just take for granted on a day-to-day basis.
Man, to me, this is what I feel like this is the greatest country I've ever been. I'm not gonna lie, because come from Haiti, man, this is like, this is big because, man, in Haiti, people don't care about stuff like that.
Right.
You know, seeing you people come here and do everything's like, they got laws for everything, for a trash can and all of that. To me, this is the most beautiful thing.
Think about it. I'm gonna tell you a story about somebody you actually know. I'm talking about like we fresh, I guess, message from Haiti to where we just got in Lake Charles. And then some neighbor was telling this guy, you know, Eltis.
Yeah.
They was pretty much telling him that he gotta cut his grass. He said, "Yeah, I'll cut it, you know, when I get to it, when I got time." And then they were telling him, "Hey man, if you don't do that, they'll fine you money." He says, "What?
Yeah.
Man, I think I'm gonna just throw bleach on this thing and kill this grass and leave it at that."
And then you can't do that either.
You can't, can you?
No.
Because you got to worry about the contamination. You know, so it's
That's
all
what I'm saying.
kind of
That's why
things.
this is the greatest country in the world. And then I see people complaining, boy, the laws we got, the stuff. I know it's not the perfect, but from somebody from outside looking in, to me, this is like.
See,
you know,
Nadeem, you and Hudgens, y'all come from Haiti, right?
Yeah.
One of the most profound things in my life, a couple of years back, I went and did a missionary trip to Haiti. And I saw the things, you know, our poor here is still not poor.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
Compared to Haiti.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
You know, streets, like you said about stop signs.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in Haiti, it's just
There's no stop sign.
go for it.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't appreciate those things until you come back to America and realize how good you have it. You know, I hear a lot of people complain about Lake Charles. Man, there are some cities around the nation that can't compete with Lake Charles. We just take for granted the things that we see each and every day. You know, until I got on the city council, I used to hear people, "Oh, these streets is bad," like you were saying about Enterprise. And then I went to New Orleans.
Oh Lord, that's
And then I went to, you know, other places, parts of Lafayette, where you're driving, the streets are just as worse. You know, because infrastructure is just not that easy to replace, like talking about it. But in the everyday citizen's mind, man, let's just tear it up and change it. That costs money.
But people always feel that entitlement. Man, I pay taxes.
Yes.
So if I want this done, it needs to be done.
Yes.
No question asked. That's how they always look at it.
I'm glad you say that. I want to ask you this question. So, before you get to the city council, what you used to think, like before you get there, and when you got there, and you realized it was not that simple?
Well, I used to be, like I said, I was an advocate, and I'd be in the city council arguing about certain things, you know, because from my side of the street, it's simple.
Yes.
Just give us the money or just give us the permission and we'll take it from there. And then when I got on this side, I started to realize if they had let me do that, that would have messed up the whole street. The whole street would have been paying, or the water wouldn't have ran down the street because I wanted to do something that I thought made sense. And when you get behind at the city council level, you have to think for other people. Because it's just like you said about your slab, right? You add that slab on the back of your house, but you don't realize you done went over your property line. So you put the slab and you build what you're gonna build and you put the roof, and now when it rains, all the water runs into your neighbor's yard and starts to make a ditch in the yard. And so now his ground done got so soft where his back porch is sliding down now. All because you was allowed to build that whatever you added onto your house and the water running off.
So they
But
got.
with-
I'm sorry. So they got to take all that into consideration before they give you a
Yes.
permit for anything.
Yes. But look, when you start something out, you got to go to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning go evaluate it, make sure the laws are being followed, and it's feasible to be built. If planning and zoning passes, you're good to go. If you don't pass, then you have a right. The citizen or the city councilman can appeal it, which means now you come before the city council. And now we're going to throw everything that the planning and zoning decided, we're throwing it out. And now you coming to us. And you got to argue, why should we let you pass this? And then it may be some stipulations that we don't even know about, because we got a planning and zoning director that's sitting there hearing your case. And he might not be in the planning and zoning meeting, but he coming to the city council meeting. And he said, well, we can do it if we do this, 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 and this. And that's something that the everyday citizen don't know about. But everything that's done in this city, from building to business, there's laws about it. Now, whether or not everybody follows it is different. But once you get caught, you got to pay the price.
And let's address something that I feel like that's important, or maybe that got a lot of ignorance behind it. Maybe you might share some light on it. Because I've being here for like 14 years, there's just one kind of complaint I've always heard some people having, like people who got business ideas or certain things they kind of really want to do. And they always tend to say, oh yeah, the old money is stopping us from doing this, or the old money won't allow that. Can you share some more light on that? Is there such thing as quote unquote old money stopping things from happening in this town?
Let me say it like this. As with any city or any place you go to, there are people that was there before others. There were people that became rich before others. And we know in today's society, you either going to control the politics or you're going to control the money. And if you got the money, you're driving things. So a lot of things are influenced by those that are influential in the community. It's certain things like back in the early days when Lake Charles had an opportunity to get all. Well, the rich people or the richer people in the city didn't feel like that was feasible for our city. So it moved on down the road. And so now we see the effects of that decision. But it's with anything, if you got the most money in the neighborhood, then you're going to be driving what goes on in that neighborhood for the most part, and people are going to listen to you because you got influence. And it's the same thing that goes on in Lake Charles. Not everybody has the same influence. That's just the reality of the world. That's just how the world works. I got a best friend that I may do something for before I do it for you. And that's just the way that things work. But you hear a lot of myths like, people control these different things and people do this. To a certain degree, people influence certain things, But to make somebody do something because you got money, no. If you got any kind of integrity to yourself, you're going to listen. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If you can help, you can help. But not everything is driven by old money or new money or whatever it is.
Okay. Speaking of money having influence, in Southwest Louisiana, we have a lot of refineries in the area.
Right.
And a lot of people, you always say that they say the refineries are polluting the water. Mm-hmm. And, I remember when somebody was telling me one of the reasons they don't want to mess with the bridges is because they feel disturb all that chemical that's been laying dormant under the river. And as a person that works for the refinery, let me not even go there. Things might end up, being in the lake, or that might affect people. And is that something the city addresses, or maybe they tend to look past it because they know the refinery or like a huge revenue in the area?
The city is a big advocate of keeping contamination out of the water, of keeping contamination out the ground. There's laws in place. There's EPA come in and they monitor these different things. There's a checks and balance that goes on. You just can't do anything in the city and get away with it. But here's the catch-22 about our particular area. I'm all for keeping the water clean and all these other kind of things. But sometimes the cost of business, you pay a price. Because when you think about how many people the refineries around here employ, how many kids they send to college through families, how many families they support. Can you imagine Southwest Louisiana without the refineries?
Nah.
Now that we've had them?
Yeah, the economy.
The economy is, we cry about having places to go now, skating rinks and all these different things. Can you imagine what we would be like if we didn't have the refineries? I know the refineries have been good to me.
I mean, everybody in here. But the thing is, what I'm saying, are you kind of saying just for the fact that the refinery, I guess, brings so much within the community, y'all tend to be a bit more lenient?
No, not lenient, because there's accountability. There's not a refinery here that I know and had experience in. I've been in the refineries for over 20-something years. You're not just getting away with dumping stuff in the water. Now, some of the things that we're experiencing now was from a time where there were no regulations. You could just do what you want to do. But now time has passed, time has evolved. We're starting to see the ramifications of not having the EPA, or not having all of these people that come in and regulate this. So now everybody is, well, I ain't gonna say everybody. There's a lot of people that's anti-refineries, but when you think about McDonald's, we're not trying to run McDonald's out of business, and we know McDonald's food killing people. But we're not trying to run McDonald's out. We gonna deal with McDonald's because it's the lesser of two evils. But because we've had some bad experiences, like in Mossville with the refineries, and in the northern parts of Louisiana, we've had some bad experiences with cancer and different things like that. I get it. I'm all for it. But that's where regulations come in. I work at a refinery where every week they come in and check the water. Every week they checking what goes out into the stream. So there are checks and balances there. It's just, we got to understand that some of the things we've done in our past and in our history are coming back to bite us now. It's just like Enterprise Boulevard. It's just like the I-10 bridge. We've waited so long to fix these things to where now our generation, we're paying the price. You looking at a bridge that's been, I'm 57 years old, and the bridge has been here longer than I've been living, and they just now fixing it. So that's what's happening with us. It's just times are catching up with us. But now the government has regulations in place where you just can't dump things in the water. You just can't do what you want to do. Matter of fact, not long ago, there was a local refinery that was fined so many millions of dollars for pollution in the air and in the water. So there's regulations there. You just might not hear about it unless you're in that environment. You work at a plant. If your refinery does something out of order and they get fined, well, you go hear about it in the refinery because it's going to spread. But the people on the street, they're not hearing about that. So it gives off a bad perception that the refineries are just allowed to do whatever they want to do. But they contribute a lot to the community. So, as with business, it's a give and take.
Good thing is, I'm glad the reason I'm saying that, I remember when I first got to Lake Charles, first of all, they were telling me, let's go to the beach. I'm like, a beach? Mm-hmm. And when we finally got into I-10, I'm like, that's a swamp. That's not a beach. But, and I remember when I got there, and I kind of wanted to, I guess, to say, hey, let me get in the water and see. They were like, man, do not do that. And I'm like, why not? They're like, man, those refineries done dumped all kind of chemicals in our water. And one guy was like, man, I wouldn't be surprised if you go in there and your skin fall off. Yeah. So that's the idea.
And it's the narrative that's put out. Yeah. And a person like you coming from Haiti, man, you coming from a place where you can see your feet 10 feet down. Yeah, absolutely. So when you come here, it's not a perfect world. And you got to understand, in Southwest Louisiana, we live in a saltwater place. So you got murky water. And if I just create a boogeyman and put him in that murky water, that'll make you scared. Now, there is some contamination in the water. I mean, we can't deny that. But to say that we just want to get rid of them,
the refineries?
Yeah. No, we want to get rid of them and just make it, that's going to make it all go away. No. That's not the reality of it,
I know we talk about the hotel that's going to be built, the convention. Is there anything else like, projects or policies that you're excited about that's gonna help the people of Lake Charles?
Well, I'm excited about the growth. We got a choice neighborhood that's being built on 18th Street, which is emulating other things that are being done in other parts of the United States. Where you have low income and regular income people mixed together, living in the same community, taking advantage of the same things. I'm excited about all of the street work. I mean, if you drive throughout the city, you're gonna see roadblocks, on a lot of streets that was never being done before. So in this 4-year period, in my lifetime, I'm seeing the most construction, the most repairs that I've ever seen in the city of Lake Charles, in this 4-year period, and it's not just one person that's doing it. That's a collection of leaders working together, both the parish and the city, to make these type of things happen.
There's any big project, like any bigger project than this? That's the 2 big projects they got going?
No, they got, you talking about city projects or you talking about just in general?
In general.
Well, in general, we got, on 5th Avenue, we got 2 big apartment complexes coming up. On Fitzgerald Road, we got people say retirement homes. They're not retirement homes. They are homes that people could retire to because they're being built on the side of the lake.
So basically, retirement home.
Yeah, because I have a lot of people come up to me and ask me, hey, man, that stuff being built on Fitzgerald Road, is that for old people that retirement home? No, it's people who want to retire by the water, and you can purchase those homes. We got a new development coming up by Project Build the Future, and the city are working on building a project again on Fitzgerald Road, creating a whole nother neighborhood for people who are first-time home buyers and different things like that. We got a sports complex that's coming up on Fitzgerald Road that's in conjunction with Ward 3, the city, and other entities throughout the city.
They said they was gonna build a road that's gonna, is it like
From Moss Bluff?
No, is it like that's gonna come down on Ryan Street, something like that?
There's $100 million bridge being built on Nelson Road. If you take Nelson Road in front of the casinos and you keep on going like you're going to the port, there's going to be a bridge that's going to take you and dump you off on Lake Street or just short of Lake Street on Sallier Street, to alleviate traffic. So when you go around the city, and like I said, if you're just an average citizen, you don't know to look for these things, because you could actually live in Lake Charles and travel on one side of the city and never go on the other side.
Well, what about that? What about that neighborhood that was like the I think it's in Lake Street where that old Holiday Inn used to be, and they used to have those. What's the
I think I know
neighborhood?
you're talking about those, I guess, Section 8 houses back there.
Yeah, that's the Choice neighborhood. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Where they tore all them houses down behind the mall.
Yeah.
They're making that. That's where they're creating that Choice neighborhood. That's in conjunction with the housing authority, the city, and some private investors.
So those houses gonna be bigger than the.
Yes, they're gonna be bigger than what they was and better than what they was.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The thing is it still going to be like a government, like a property?
It's still
kinda
low
like,
income housing.
Okay.
So a portion of it is going to be low income housing, and the portion going to be regular housing. Where you pay market value rent.
Okay. Thing is, you said you love helping the community. You've been doing that way before you were a councilman. And as you're doing the job now, have you ever actually felt like, one day where things were like overwhelming to where like for a split second you fell out of love with the job?
Oh, I fall out of love with the job every day. It don't take but a citizen to call you, and you've worked with this citizen for the last 2 weeks. You've told them where to go and get the work done. You've told them how to get it done. You've actually put things in place for them to get it done. And they'll come right back on social media and say you never helped them. And they'll literally say your name. Well, so-and-so didn't do nothing for me. And you call them on the phone and you say, Miss So-and-so, didn't I help you do this? Well, yes, baby, you helped me do that. Well, didn't I help you do that? Yes, baby, I helped you do. Well, why are you on social media saying that? Oh. So that's disheartening when you've given your all to help somebody. And like I say, not every time can you give them what they want, but you can help them along the way. They better off after talking to me than what they were before.
Yeah.
And that's the goal of any council person, is to help and be better than it was when we left.
So what motivates you to keep going, even though all these challenges for the job?
I guess what motivates me is I've been without. As I told you, I had a 10-year sentence in prison. I went from having everything to having nothing, losing your family, losing your money, losing your job, and being locked away and saying you can't do nothing. I just believe that that's what God wants us to do. And I live by a motto: God will move the world to get you to see what he wants you to see. So that means that God is going to move everything in the world just for you. For you to come here from Haiti, do you realize how many things had to happen for you to be able to come here? How many things had to be moved, and rooms had to be opened, and doors had to, open up for you to come here? Just to drive back and forth to work every day. Do you realize how many times we could die? How many times that car ran across the red light because they was rushing and came across you, but the red light stopped you? You know, so that's what keeps me going, because I know I'm blessed. Even though I ain't got the best of everything, I'm blessed because I know what it could be. You know, so that's what keeps me going.
And also, I got a question. It might not pertain to Lake Charles, but it pertains to Louisiana. As somebody who's here to help set up the rules and fight things they feel like need to be set in place or whatever. What Atchafalaya Bridge? I think that's the name of that bridge, that 23-mile bridge from Lafayette. Yeah, that bridge right there. And I remember they were talking about putting some sort of camera to where they record how long it takes you to cross that bridge if you're doing the speed limit. And then they were thinking about if you do it like a second faster or
You get a ticket.
you get a ticket. Like, what's your opinion on that? Do you think that's fair?
It's not about fair. It's about, if I'm going to the Bayou Classic and I'm in a rush, or if I'm going to New Orleans for a concert and I'm in a rush, I want to speed across that bridge. But the day that I speed across that bridge and I cause a 50-car pileup, is it worth it?
Of course not.
You know, so at sometimes, if we just let everybody do what they want to do, we'll all be flying down that highway. So we have to have some semblance of order in order to preserve everybody else.
But don't you think that's a bit too extreme?
No, I don't think it is, because I've driven over the Atchafalaya doing over 100.
Oh, we all have.
On
I feel like
several
somebody
occasions.
would be lying
You know?
if they said they didn't.
You know what I'm saying? And I think about, man, how easy I could have hurt somebody, or how easy somebody could have hurt me, because it could be a leaf falling and you got to hit your brakes. You know, so a lot of times, as I'm saying about being in leadership, you got to think for other people. You know, it would be easy for me to structure the world to fit around me and I'd be comfortable. But what about the next man? And that's what all these things are about. So to answer your question, I'm not so sold on the fact that once I get off the bridge and 2 weeks later you send me a ticket saying I was speeding and you wasn't there to see me. You know, I'm still torn on that. Like going to Texas, when you pass the tolls and they send you that thing 3 months later saying you owe me $50. You know, I'm still not sold on that, but you know.
But speaking on that, like if you go to all the bigger cities, let's just say Miami, because I got family there and I go there pretty often, like the huge cities, New York, Houston, you name it, that kind of have like cameras on every single freaking corner, doing that, catching people running red lights or whatever. Do you think that'd be a good idea to have in Lake Charles, or perhaps a bad idea?
I think it would be an excellent idea in Lake Charles.
I disagree,
You know,
but
well, I mean, but what perspective do you disagree from? Because you don't want to be filmed?
It's not the question of being filmed, because whenever you go to these big cities, right, they got this little, I guess because I lived in Lake Charles, I'm used to not feeling like, there's basically God watching me every 24, every second of the day.
Right.
But whenever you come back in Lake Charles, it's kind of like you breathe easier, okay, I'm in my city, I can run this quick stop sign here and there quick, But when she starts putting camera on every single corner, and I get it's gonna make things safer, I do. But I feel like now, if they start doing that in Lake Charles, of course, they're gonna make things safer. It's gonna bring more money to the city. I keep all that in mind.
Right.
But I just feel like it make things less comfortable.
Well, I think that in my opinion, there's a way to do it. I don't believe that we turn the cameras on all the time, but we can't just go in there and look at the cameras just for the hell of looking at the cameras. But I come home one day and my power went out. Right? So my alarm system is out. But it's a pretty day. And somebody done bust my door down and took all my furniture out of my house. And I come home and I don't have a clue who did it, because my alarm system was off with everything. Would you want that camera to work?
Of course I want that camera, but I feel like it's two different things.
But it's two different things, because it benefits you in one sense, and in the other sense, you feel like it's invading your privacy.
Yeah, I feel like it's basically watching me every second or whatever. And the thing is, sometimes you gotta go dispute those things because they're wrong.
Okay, let me take you to another extreme. Do you trust the police?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. If somebody broke in your... police beat a man up on the street. You want them to be done with, right?
Yeah.
They mistreat somebody. You want them to be done with.
Yeah, I want that officer to, be responsible
That officer,
for that.
not
counsel the whole police, but I'm just saying that officer clearly didn't do his job as he was supposed to, and I would expect, for him to, I guess, pay the price in a sense.
Right. Okay, but let's say you got a burglar in your house. and that officer comes.
I mean, it's still wrong for what they did. I understand what you're coming for with that, but I'm just saying, like, I never be like, I see 2020 defunded the police. I never thought that was a good idea.
Right.
But
right.
is it they got bad police officers?
Yes,
for
most
sure.
definitely.
So if those, if you can't fix that problem, yes. But I'm never gonna be one because I know when shit hit the fan, that's 911.
Right.
That's who I'm gonna call. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, but yeah, I'm not gonna. If that police come help me, that doesn't change the fact that he wasn't still wrong for being somebody. It's better when he didn't have to.
Right. But that's what I'm talking about. Like telephones. The police can't just go look in our telephones, even though our telephones can record everything.
Yeah.
You have to go get a court order and do all this other kind of stuff. I believe that's how cameras could work as well. I don't just want them to just look at my camera and say, let's see who committed a crime today. And we looking and we catch all these people committing crimes. No. But if it's a need to go in there and look at that camera, then that's the difference.
Because the thing is, the reason I'm saying that, because you was asking me like, if I trust the police, I'd say sometimes. Because nowadays with social media and everything you see
Right.
going on out there, you see certain things that scare the hell out of you. Because like me personally, every time I get pulled over, and my mindset is, because even though I've been pulled over since 2017, like my mindset is, let's get this dude back in his car, and then
Right.
like
Get
if
him
it's
on
a
the
ticket, give it to me so I can bounce and get the hell away from you before
Right.
things start going south or whatever. And also my other fear is, let's just say if they want to incriminate you, if they want to throw back
Right.
with cocaine in the back seat, then be like, hey, look what this dude got back there, and then there's
Right.
not a damn thing you can positively say to prove
Exactly
otherwise.
right.
Those type of things, I guess in a sense, scare me. And I mean, luckily for me, I've never had a bad interaction with every time I've been
Right.
pulled over. Like I've been lucky enough to where those officers been respectful. I've been respectful towards them, and then the whole transaction happened smoothly.
Right.
But I've known plenty of other people, especially within my skin color, who have different story to tell. And I got a cousin of mine who was telling me one time he got pulled over, and the officer wanted him to search his car, and he was like, "No, you don't have my consent." And from how he said it, they purposely made him sit on the side of the road for like
Right.
3 hours
Right.
till K9 showed.
Right.
And when he was speaking about it, it made it seem like the officer was pretty much being an a-hole
Right.
by making him wait 3 hours. But the officer's excuse was, it's taking us a while to get a K9 unit.
Right. Well, trust me, I know I've had bad experiences with the law enforcement. Just as well as I needed them to come and do something for me. And me personally, I don't have a clear-cut answer for it. Because I don't know how we could do it and get a balance. Because as you said, people gonna be people.
Yeah.
Bad people happen to wear police officers' uniforms, and bad people happen to be civilians. So I don't think it's gonna ever be a situation where we can come to a clear-cut answer where everybody's gonna be pleased.
Of course not.
I just think it's on both sides, it's a necessary evil. We just hope that people are going to do, if you become a police officer, do your job like it's supposed to be done. But the way of the world is it's not gonna be that way. It's not gonna be that way. So it's hard for me to try and come up with an answer.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky situation.
Yeah.
You need them, but at the same time, they can come and do like such a terrible job where you
Right.
feel like, man, I shouldn't call them at first. Because
Right.
if you think about what happened about a few months ago, that lady that called the cops because she thought she saw somebody in the backyard, and then she ended
Right.
up getting shot in the head.
Right.
Because she went to reach out for a boiling pot of water, and even though she was just, I don't know what I saw the video.
Right.
It didn't seem like she would threaten the officer with that
Right.
pot of water, but she ended up getting killed even though she was the one that called the cops.
Right.
So when you see this type of situation, it tends to put some sort of fear in your heart.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm having an interaction with a cop, it doesn't matter if I call them or they came or if it's a ticket or whatever it is. I always get this feeling like things can flip within a
Right.
split of a second. And then
Right.
that bit of a feeling always put that unease in my heart too. It's like if I'm dealing with a police officer, I'll try to be as respectful as I can and deal with whatever issue we're dealing with so you can go about this business and I can go about mine. Well, let's not make this interaction last longer than it needs to be.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
And that's the thing we have to do as people. Just like with leadership, you would hope that people get in these positions and they do the right thing. Just like with police officers, just like with regular everyday citizens. We would hope that people would just treat people like God would want us to be treated. In the world that we live in today, it's not that way. So, especially us, we got to know how to navigate this. We got to know when to make a stink and when not to make a stink. And it just comes with living. It just comes with living.
But the thing is, as a councilman, do you think because we actually had a privilege of having Sheriff Stipp sitting exactly where you're sitting at right now, and then we were able to address some of those concerns and matters that I just brought up earlier. But at the same time, as a councilman, do you think like you also have a power toward that kind of stuff? As far as like police brutality, make sure the
Yes,
officers are trained.
Part of our job as councilmen is to make sure that the police do the job the right way. You know, if there's something going on in the community with the police officers, we go to the police station and we sit down and we talk with the chief of police and we talk about these issues and concerns that the community has. That's part of our job, you know, but at the same time, we have to understand that there's a part about law enforcement that we don't know as well. You know, so I'm taking what I know and go and sit down and talk to the chief or one of his deputies and what they know. And we try to come to an agreement which best for the community. But you have to have people in leadership that are willing to take that step and say, hey, you was wrong for that. You know, so now here's what has to happen. And it's just working back and forth. And that's why I go back to the fact the community drives all of this. You know, if we don't get involved as citizens, then everything gonna fall by the wayside.
So I know you because that's your first term is about to end it. So you're going for an election again. So what you want the people to know for them to go vote for you? What you want like to tell them to know, hey, if you vote for me, this is what you can expect from me. So is there any words you can?
Well, I would say to the people in my district is that for the past 4 years, evaluate me on what I've done. You know, let the work that I've done speak for me. You know, if you felt that I've done what a councilman is supposed to do, then vote for me because it's only going to get better. You know, I'm only going to be better now that I know because this term here, I'm coming in with knowledge that I didn't have before. So if you thought I did a good job in these first 4 years, just imagine what I'll do the next 4 years now that I know better and I know what I can and cannot do and I know how to serve the people. So I'm asking the people to go out. If you do nothing else, go out and vote because that is the way that we get things done. You know, if I'm not the man for you, then go out and vote for the man that's for you. You know, but what we cannot do is stay home and just let anybody get in office. You know, so I'm encouraging the people to evaluate Craig Marks for the last 4 years. If you're satisfied with my performance, then vote for me. Like I say, it's going to only get better. You know, but by the same token, if you don't think I did a good job, then vote for my opponent, whoever decides to run against me. And I'm good with that.
But let me ask you this though. You said you've always been involved in the community, like, you know, way before you ever got convicted, way before you got elected as a councilman, you was always involved in the community. But let's just say right now, if you had the opportunity to go back and speak with that, you said you were 27 years old when you got convicted, to that 27-year-old guy who felt like he was done wrong by the justice system that he trusted. What would you say to that person now that you're in a position where you can genuinely and truly help people? What would you say to that guy?
I say, put yourself in a position where you can fight for yourself. Because part of the reason that I got convicted is because I had no money. I had no advocate to fight for me. I couldn't pay a lawyer. You know, so when we get ourselves in these situations as young people, we go into this misconception believing that everything is about right and wrong. You know, I went into the justice system in the courtroom to trial thinking that, oh man, I'm gonna get out of this because right is right and wrong is wrong. And that's not how it went down. You know, so if I was speaking to my 27-year-old self again, I would say, slow down, learn as you go, you know, make better decisions on what you want to do with your life. You know, because as a 27-year-old, you're not thinking about death. When I went to prison, I didn't think about going to prison. The night before I went to prison, I was at the softball park hitting baseballs, getting ready to go to Las Vegas and playing this big softball tournament. And at 5 o'clock that morning, they came get me, you know, in 1997. And I didn't see home again till 2007. You know, you're not thinking about that as a young man, but that's the reality of it. You know, our heads have to be on a swivel of life, you know, learning from the things we've been through. You know, I had a good job. I had a family, lost all of that, all in the same day. You know, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to come back. Everybody don't come back. You know, some people are in the graveyard. Some people are struggling. Some people are way worse off than me. Some guys that I was locked up with, they done been back for their third or fourth time since I got out. You know, so I would talk to that 27-year-old person and tell them to be mindful of the world, because the world don't owe you nothing, nor is the world a fair place. But you have to keep on driving, learn as you go, make better decisions, learn from your mistakes, you know, and to fear. See, we don't fear decisions. We don't fear decisions, but we don't pay attention to consequences either. See, we'll make a choice to do something with no thought of what the consequence is going to be. And I would tell my 27-year-old self, think about the consequences. You know, I left home at 27. My daughter was 3 years old. When I got back, she was graduating. My son, he hadn't graduated already. You know, so that's a whole nother life that I affected by the decisions I made, not thinking about the consequences. And so the youth today, me back at 27 years old, I would just be more mindful of the decisions that I make and why you make them, and factor in the consequence. You know, because some people figure, I can handle it, so I'm gonna go do it. And that's how they weigh it out. You know, but I've had the luxury to come through 20 years later and look back. You know, and if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have made the same decision, but I would have did things that led up to that decision differently.
So what you want your legacy to be when everything's said and done?
I just want people to know about Craig Marks, that I believed in loyalty, that I was a man of my word, you know, that I never meant to hurt anybody, but I'm a fight. I'm a fight right, wrong, or indifferent for what I believe in, you know, and if at the end I was wrong, then I'm willing to accept the punishment. But I want people to remember me, that I was a person that you could depend on, that had a word.
All right.
Man, I think we struck gold in this one. And I
we
think
sure did. We sure did.
I mean, we covered everything, and that was one of the best episodes so far to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I learned a lot of stuff, because a lot of the stuff I didn't even know, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's why I always say this is the most important part for me about this show, and that's what I'm gonna keep doing it, because bringing people like you in the community, and I'm pretty sure they got probably somebody that's gonna watch this episode, they'll be like, man, I didn't even know anything of that.
Right.
And anybody out there, if you feel like Craig did a good job in your community, go out there and vote.
Right.
Don't say it's like, I mean, I know the youth don't vote. It's just like with so much bullshit in politics now, people don't want to go because you don't know who to choose or who's, you know, like the misconceptions is out there, like you don't want to do this. But if you feel like your community been better, you know, you feel like Enterprise is good.
Man, just for the sake of Enterprise being fixed, I'm gonna go out there and vote. Because I stayed on Enterprise. That's the reason behind that. Because like my first house was on Enterprise, 2800 Enterprise Boulevard, and I remember I used to just look at that road, and I'm like, when they gonna do something about that? And now you go on Nelson Road, you see Nelson Road being fixed.
Right.
You go on all the roads, especially in the south part of town, you see like, okay, those are getting better, and then you see Enterprise thing all messed up. And also 14, Highway 14, like right there by Broad Street, like basically like Highway 14 from Preen Lake all the way down to Broad Street. That's messed up too.
And see, I just want to put this caveat there. I'm glad you said what you said about 14. See, what a lot of people don't understand is that the city don't own all these streets. Some of these streets belong to the state. So the city can't use their funding to repair these streets. So we have to wait until the state get the money to come in and fix these streets. Like right now, you see all this work being done on Highway 14. Well, that's DOTD doing that work. That's the Department of Transportation for the state. They come in and do that work like that.
But do you guys get to put the pressure on them and be like,
oh, yes. We have to put the pressure. We write letters, we call, we do all those necessary things, but they're going to fix it when they get the money.
All right, there you
know?
go.
And let me say this before
Go
we
ahead,
end.
go ahead.
I want to say about, you know, I didn't know about the Haitian Kings, you know, prior to I was introduced, man. But I want to say, you, in my opinion, this is I went back and I watched the people y'all been interviewing. I've watched the way y'all conduct y'all interviews, and the whole setup is just clean. You know, it gives an honest appearance where people can come and voice their opinion. So I appreciate y'all for doing that for the community.
Oh, no, man, we
appreciate
you, honestly, because if it ain't for people like you that's willing to sit down and bless us, and also people that's watching with all that knowledge, there's certain things we would never know. Because I never knew that leaving my trash out there for more than 3 days was a violation. But hey, you learn something new every day. So therefore, like, we appreciate you and all the others that sat on this chair before you and all the ones that are going to be sitting after you, who's going to be able to sit there and share all that good knowledge and information or things that people might need to know, things that people are ignorant towards, and then hopefully that can show them or put them in a better direction in life. So therefore, thank you for stopping by. And as per usual, if you guys like or enjoy this podcast, like, share, and subscribe. Anything else you want to add?
No, man, I thank you so much, Greg, for coming to the show, man.
Me, brother.
And the platform is yours, and every time you want to come back, we're gladly to have you back, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, and that's a wrap.
Man,
that was
good.
nice.
I love that one.